My wife sold our house for $1 million and kicked me out while I was on a business trip. She forged my signature, changed the locks, put my clothes in trash bags on the porch and vanished with the money. Matina thought she'd won. She thought she'd finally escaped the structural engineer husband who was too focused on building things to notice she'd been gambling away our future for 3 years. She thought wrong. Because the house she sold? I designed every inch of it. And buried beneath the basement was a secret vault containing $780,000 that she never knew existed. But here's where this story gets insane. When I broke back into my own house at 3 in the morning, I found someone else already there searching for my vault. A woman Matina had hired months ago. And that's when my phone rang. It was my wife screaming. The Russian mobsters she owed $450,000 had found her. They wanted the money from the house sale or they'd kill her. And suddenly I had a choice to make. What happened next will show you that the best revenge isn't always the one you plan. Sometimes it's the one you build into the foundation and wait for the perfect moment to reveal. Viewers, have you ever had to save someone who destroyed you? Share your story below. Before this story begins, subscribe. You'll never look at relationships the same way again. My name is Brian Dorgu, and 3 days ago, I learned that 20 years of marriage can disappear faster than it takes to change a lock. I'm 43, a structural engineer from Portland, Oregon, and I've spent my entire career understanding how things hold together under pressure. Steel beams, concrete foundations, load-bearing walls. I can calculate stress points down to the decimal. But I never calculated that my wife would sell our house for $1 million while I was designing a hospital wing in Sacramento, forge my signature on legal documents, and leave my clothes in garbage bags on the porch like yesterday's trash. I met Matina in college, back when her smile could light up entire rooms and her laugh made me believe in second chances. She grew up in Miami, daughter of a real estate mogul who lost everything in the 2008 crash. I watched her father drink himself to death in a foreclosed mansion during our engagement. She'd grip my hand at his funeral and whisper, "Houses are the only things that can't leave you, Brian." I thought she meant we'd build something permanent together. I was wrong about what she actually meant. The colonial house in Pearl District wasn't just our home. I designed every inch of it in 2009, still paranoid from watching my own father lose everything when his business partner cleaned out their accounts and vanished to Costa Rica. So I built in a secret. A 400-square-foot vault beneath the basement, hidden behind a false wall in the utility room. Inside, 15 years of cash, gold coins, and insurance documents. $780,000 that Matina never knew existed. Until 3 days ago, I thought that vault was my safety net. Now, standing here with her note crumpled in my fist, I realize it might be my only weapon. The fluorescent lights in Margaret Gerald's law office made everything look like a crime scene, which felt appropriate considering what she was about to tell me. I'd barely slept, spending the night in a motel that smelled like bleach and broken dreams, and now this shark of a divorce attorney was sliding a folder across her mahogany desk like she was serving me my own death certificate. "Mr. Dorgu, your wife filed for divorce 6 months ago," Margaret said, her voice professionally sympathetic in that way lawyers perfect. "The house was sold to a private buyer last Thursday. The transaction was legally questionable but technically valid." My hands gripped the armrests. "How is that possible? My name is on that deed." Margaret's eyes dropped, and that micropause told me everything I needed to know before she even spoke. "Your wife filed a quitclaim deed 18 months ago. You signed it, Brian. At least, there's a signature that matches your notarized documents." The room tilted. 18 months ago, Matina had woken me at 2 in the morning, fresh off a double shift at the hospital where she worked as a trauma nurse. "Honey, I need you to sign these property tax papers before I forget," she'd said, kissing my forehead. I'd signed half asleep, trusting her completely. That's what you do when you love someone, right? You trust them with everything. "Who bought it?" I managed to ask. "Derek Santino. Portland-based property flipper. Paid $850 for it." Derek Santino. The name hit me like a wrecking ball. Matina's high school sweetheart from Miami. The one she'd mentioned exactly once years ago, calling him the one who got away before laughing it off. My wife hadn't just sold our house. She'd sold it to him. But she'd made one critical mistake. That house wasn't just a house. Rain hammered the windshield as I sat across from Derek Santino in a downtown coffee shop that smelled like expensive espresso and bad decisions. He looked exactly like Matina had described years ago, all sharp jawline and designer suit, the kind of man who made flipping houses look effortless. Margaret's paralegal had accidentally left his contact information visible when she stepped out, and I'd called him immediately. "Brian Dorgu," he said, not quite smiling. The ghost of the house. Matina said you'd probably show up. You know my wife. It wasn't a question. Knew her. High school Miami. We reconnected at a real estate conference last year. The way he said reconnected made my stomach turn, but his eyes showed something unexpected. Pity, not guilt. She offered me the house at $850, said it was worth $1.3 million, quick sale, no questions. I ran the numbers and made the deal. I didn't know about complications. He shifted uncomfortably, glancing at his phone. Last I heard, she's somewhere in the Bahamas. Took the money and ran. 3 years ago, I'd noticed money disappearing from our accounts. Small amounts initially, 200 here, 500 there. Matina blamed shopping trips and spa days, but I'd found the credit card statements hidden in her car. Online poker. High-stakes blackjack on offshore gambling sites. She'd lost $140,000 before I confronted her. She cried, promised therapy, swore she'd stopped. I believed her because I loved her. But addicts don't stop. They just get better at hiding. Derek leaned forward. She kept asking me about the basement. Wanted to know if I was planning to renovate down there. Seemed anxious about it. My blood went cold. She suspected something. The vault. Somehow she knew. At 2:47 in the morning, I crouched behind bushes across from my old house, watching a single basement light flicker on. My house. The one I'd designed with my own hands, where I'd carried Matina across the threshold, where we'd planned futures that would never happen. Derek had given me 3 days before renovation started, 3 days before contractors would rip through that basement and discover my vault. I picked the back door lock with hands that trembled but remembered. I'd installed this security system, knew every code, every bypass. Inside, footsteps echoed from below. Someone was already here. The basement stairs creaked as I descended. A woman in her 60s stood illuminated by a work lamp, methodically photographing every wall with expensive professional equipment. She spun when she heard me, dropping her camera. Jesus, you scared me. I'm Patricia. Derek hired me for a structural assessment before renovation. Structural assessments don't happen at 3 in the morning. Her hands shook like she'd been caught stealing, and that's when I saw it. The utility room door slightly ajar. The false wall panel displaced by barely an inch. She'd found it. Our eyes met. She knew. I knew she knew. Matina hired me 3 months ago, Patricia said quietly, her voice resigned. Said there was something hidden in this house. Said I'd get 20% if I found it before the sale closed. Matina's gambling debts weren't to online casinos anymore. 6 months ago, she'd gotten involved with an underground poker ring in Seattle. She owed $320,000 to people who don't accept payment plans. That's why she needed my house. Not just for money. For survival. Harsh LED work lights flooded the hidden vault entrance as the false wall slid open with a sound like a tomb unsealing. Patricia stood frozen, sweat beading on her forehead, watching me decide her fate. I had 2 choices: let this stranger take half of everything I'd protected, or gamble that she feared Matina more than she was loyal to her. How much does Matina still owe? I asked. Patricia's eyes widened. She told you? How much? $320,000. To very bad people. I'm not treasure hunting for fun, Mr. Dorgu. She promised me $200,000 to find whatever you were hiding. Said it would save both our lives. I stepped into the vault. Everything remained untouched. Stacks of cash in vacuum-sealed bags. Gold American Eagles and protective cases. Documents detailing every shady financial move Matina had made in 5 years. I pulled out a duffel bag and started loading cash while Patricia watched, paralyzed. Here's what's going to happen, I said, my voice steady. You're going to tell Matina you found nothing. That the house was clean. You're going to disappear. And I'm giving you $50,000 cash right now to make that happen. She'll kill me. Those people she owes are going to come looking for her, not you. Take the money, Patricia. Start over somewhere else. She hesitated, eyes darting between the cash and the door. Then she grabbed the money and ran. As I loaded the rest into my truck, a horrifying realization struck me. 10 years ago, Matina had taken out a $2 million life insurance policy on me. She'd called it smart planning. I'd forgotten about it until now. Her desperate need to remove me from the picture suddenly made terrifying sense. Dawn broke over the Walmart parking lot where I'd parked my truck, rain hammering the windshield like accusations. My phone screen illuminated the darkness. Incoming call, Matina Mobile. I let it ring twice, gathering myself, then answered with a voice I barely recognized as my own. You're supposed to be in the Bahamas. Brian, please. Her voice was distorted, panicked, Nothing like the woman who'd kissed me goodbye 2 weeks ago. I need you to listen to me. I'm in trouble. Real trouble. You sold my house. Forged my signature. Took $1 million. What kind of trouble could you possibly? They're going to kill me. Her voice cracked with genuine terror that cut through my anger like a knife. I thought I could win it back. I thought the house money would be enough to pay them off and still have something left, but they want interest, they want penalties. Despite everything she'd done, despite the betrayal and the lies and the forged documents, part of me still cared. 20 years of marriage doesn't evaporate in a single phone call, no matter how much you want it to. Who, Matina? Who wants to kill you? The Volkov brothers. Seattle. I owe them $450,000 now. They said they'd give me until Monday, but Brian, they found out about the house sale. They know I have money. They want it all. There it was. The truth. She hadn't run to the Bahamas. She was hiding somewhere, probably some cheap motel, watching the door, waiting for hired muscle to kick it in. Where's the money from the house? Silence. Then quietly, I gambled half. Tried to double it. Lost. The rest is in a bank account I can't access because they're watching. Then I heard it. A door slamming. Men's voices. Her scream. The line went dead. Every logical cell in my body screamed to let her face the consequences as I sped down Interstate 5, jaw clenched, hands gripping the steering wheel like it was the only thing keeping me tethered to reality. She'd destroyed us, betrayed everything we'd built, and now she expected me to save her. But 15 years of marriage doesn't evaporate just because you want it to, and somewhere beneath the rage was a terrifying question. What if I could save her and still make her pay? My phone buzzed. Unknown number. Text message, you have something we want. Hotel Monaco. Room 447. 1 hour. Come alone or she dies. The Volkov brothers weren't subtle. They tracked my phone, probably had people watching my truck right now. I had $780,000 in the back seat. They wanted $450,000. But I'd learned from my father's mistake. Never negotiate without leverage. I pulled into a FedEx office, hands steady now, mind calculating like I was designing a building. Load-bearing walls. Stress points. Redundancies. I made copies of documents, sealed them in 3 separate envelopes addressed to the FBI, IRS, and Portland Police Department. Everything about Matina's fraud, the Volkov's money laundering operations I'd researched, evidence that would send everyone involved to federal prison. Before the gambling, before the lies, Matina and I were in love. Real love. She'd worked as a trauma nurse, saving lives, coming home exhausted but fulfilled. We'd dance in the kitchen at midnight, plan vacations we never took. She wanted kids, but I kept saying, not yet. Maybe if I'd said yes, she wouldn't have needed the adrenaline rush of high-stakes poker to feel alive. But as I drove toward the hotel, I realized this wasn't about saving Matina. This was about taking back control. The hotel room was dimly lit, rain streaking the windows behind 3 men who looked like they'd stepped out of a crime thriller. 2 massive bodyguards flanked Viktor Volkov, a man in his 50s with cold eyes and an expensive suit that probably cost more than most people's cars. Matina sat tied to a chair between them, bruised but alive, her eyes meeting mine with desperate hope I wasn't sure she deserved. Mr. Dorgo. The husband. Victor's thick Russian accent made every word sound like a threat. You bring the money? I set the duffel bag on the bed, unzipped it slowly, letting them see the stacks of cash. $450,000. Count it if you want. And we let her go? Just like that? No. You let her go, and I don't send the documents I've prepared to federal investigators detailing your organization's money laundering through Seattle commercial real estate. Silence fell like a guillotine blade. Victor's expression didn't change, but his men tensed, hands moving toward concealed weapons. This was the gamble. Either he'd call my bluff and we'd all die here, or he'd recognize a fellow pragmatist. Bold. Stupid but bold, Victor said finally. The envelopes are already addressed, stamped, given to 3 separate people with instructions. If I don't check in every 6 hours, they mail them. You kill me, you're done in 36 hours. People think engineers just build things. We don't. We solve problems. We see systems, patterns, weak points. I'd spent 20 years analyzing structures. Now I was analyzing people. Everyone has a pressure point. You just have to find where to push. Victor studied me for an eternal moment. Then he laughed. Actually laughed. I like you. You think like businessman. 3 days later, bright morning sunlight flooded Margaret's law office as Matina and I sat across from each other, not as husband and wife but as adversaries in a divorce proceeding that would determine the rest of our lives. Documents spread across the table like evidence at a trial neither of us had wanted but both of us had earned. Mrs. Dorgu, your husband is offering you the following terms, Margaret said, her voice professionally neutral. You keep the $500,000 remaining from the house sale. He keeps his retirement accounts, vehicles and all personal property. You sign an agreement never to contact him again and attend mandatory gambling addiction treatment for 2 years. Matina's hands shook as she read the papers, and I watched her like I was watching a stranger. Maybe that's what she'd become. Or maybe that's what she'd always been, and I'd been too in love to see it. What about the house? Derek Santino. I bought it back. Made him an offer yesterday. He accepted. Her eyes snapped up, shock blooming across her face, then slow understanding. The vault. You got to the vault. I did. And I kept enough to rebuild what you destroyed. The house is mine again. Legally this time. She was quiet for a long moment. I never meant for it to go this far. It started as just excitement, a thrill. Then I couldn't stop. The debt kept growing and I was drowning and I thought if I could just... You thought you could erase me and solve your problems. You forged my signature. Sold our home. Put my life in danger with the Volkovs. The woman I married would never have done these things. Silence. Heavy. Final. That woman died somewhere between the first bet and the last lie, she whispered. 6 months later, golden afternoon light streams through the windows of my house. The house I designed, the house that almost destroyed me but ultimately saved me. I stand in the renovated living room, paint samples on walls, new furniture in boxes, blueprints spread across the counter showing expansion plans. I've turned the vault into a wine cellar, sealed it properly this time. No more secrets buried in the foundation. My phone buzzes. Email from Derek Santino, investment opportunity, Portland Heights Development. Interested. We'd stayed in touch after everything, discovering we made good business partners. He flips properties, I design renovations. 3 deals in 6 months, all profitable, all clean, all built on contracts instead of trust. Letters spread across my kitchen table tell stories of new beginnings. Patricia sent a postcard from Colorado, new job, new life, thanking me for the chance to start over. Matina's lawyer confirmed she completed treatment, moved to Arizona, working as a nurse again. I don't hate her anymore. Hate requires energy I'd rather spend building. The doorbell rings. I open it to find a woman in her 30s, professional clothes, warm smile, architectural portfolio under her arm. Mr. Dorgu? I'm Sarah Chin. I responded to your ad for a project manager. I smiled, the first genuine smile in months. Come in. Let me show you what we're building. They say you can't build a house on shaky ground. But I've learned something better. When the foundation cracks, you don't abandon the structure. You excavate, reinforce, rebuild stronger than before. Matina sold my house for $1 million and kicked me out. She forgot the secret behind the house wasn't just money in a vault. It was knowing I'm the architect. And architects always know how to rebuild. If this shocked you, subscribe, like, comment and share, because the next story is worse.